It was basketball all my life, and I can't remember an occasion which has given me more personal satisfaction than the basketball game you are going to see in just a few seconds.
We were the Renegades. We were the other league.
Why did you choose the ABA over NBA?
Well, I like the colors of the basketball.
They would have any sort of promotion at halftime. They'd bring players out of the locker room at halftime to milk cows. The Colonels actually signed a female jockey.
You never knew in the beginning of the year who was going to be in the league. You didn't know whether there was going to be 10 teams, 12 teams. Never knew where you're going to be playing.
We couldn't even get checked in a regular hotel. We had to stay in the housing projects. We go out there and just go after each other like during the game. But after the game, we all party together.
And even the refs.
There was this cultural revolution going on. The afros flying through the air and the guys jumping and dunking. And the ABA brought in the fast pace, the three-point line.
There's a lot of bad guys, man. I mean, bad meaning that can play.
They call him the Iceman, Mr. Cool. Erving to the basket. The doctor came.
You really feel good to have been a part of it. You know, it's something that you couldn't and wouldn't trade for anything else.
The New York Nets were facing the Denver Nuggets in Game 6 of the ABA Finals. It would turn out to be the last game of the series and the last the league would ever play. It was a fitting end. Leading the Nets was Dr. J, whose sensational play had helped put the league on the map. And coaching the Nuggets were Larry Brown and Doug Moe, two ABA lifers, who were completely devoted to the league and to each other. The pair had been friends from their playing days at the University of North Carolina, but had seen their dreams of playing in the NBA go unfulfilled.
I was an assistant coach at North Carolina, and the ABA started, and they were trying to get a hold of Doug Moe, who was playing in Italy at the time. And Doug said he would play if they signed me.
Larry said, well, you play, I'll play. And I said, you play, I'll play. And that's what happened.
Larry Brown set the pace, looking for Doug Moe at the free throw line.
Doug Moe was sweet, man. That was a sweet player there. He could put it on you. And Larry Brown was always directing you. How you go, where you go? It's like, God, playing North Carolina was like, jeez. Dean Smith over in the corner someplace? You know, those guys was like precision, you know?
Playing for the New Orleans Buccaneers, Brown and Moe would run their opponents ragged and drive their own coach crazy.
For Babe McCarthy, all of his things went out the window when they came out of the timeout when Doug said to Larry, forget the play, Larry, get me the ball.
And after that, you know, I go to Oakland. We get traded together and win a championship. You know, we did everything together.
We roomed together, had pillow fights and things like that.
We washed our own uniforms. I remember I had to wash Doug's because he would just fold it up in a bag, and we'd go to the next game and you'd shake it out.
I go down with Doug, order something to eat at lunchtime. And look at the menu, look at my order, and Doug says to me, he says, Rick, what do I want? How do I know what you want? He says, come on, what do I want? I said, I don't know what you want. And he says, well, if Larry was here, he would know.
When their playing days came to an end in 1972, Larry was quickly named head coach of the Carolina Cougars.
I was in the hospital. I said, oh boy, they're going to operate on my knee. I'll be playing next year. That's when the doctor came in and told me, you're not playing tiddlywinks, no less basketball. So, and Larry had just gotten a Cougar job. He called me and said, hey, you want to be my assistant? And I didn't want to work, and we knew we'd have a good time.
It was a way of me paying back a friend. And honestly, I needed him.
They had fired every coach they had, so one of the things that Larry said, it was funny. He said, well, if we get fired, we're going to get fired doing it our way.
Larry Brown was willing to try things in the pro game that had never been tried before.
Great play.
He platooned, he trapped, he pressed, he tried to force turnovers. He played at a pace that no other team was accustomed to playing to.
I don't
don't think we're moving the ball quickly enough. You know, we're kind of aiming it and we're a little tentative.
Brown coached for 4 years in the ABA and won Coach of the Year in 3 of them, all with Mo by his side.
He and Larry together were just the odd couple. They really were. It was Felix and Oscar. I mean, Doug was a slob.
What was I, Mr. Polyester? Or
Larry was all over the magazines and TV with his jumpsuits on, bib overalls and his colorful sweaters, and he was always dressed GQ stuff.
Larry always wanted to be the nice guy. Doug didn't care. Nobody was more abusive in his language or his attitude than Mo.
Doug could tell Larry some things that we couldn't tell him, you know. And sometimes you hear him going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
I mean, they'd get in fights, and you'd think they were gonna kill each other.
he could tell me to kiss off, and I'd tell him to kiss off. Next minute, we're big buddies and stuff, so it was easy in that way that we didn't have to hold back anything that you felt.
If we lost, he cared about it as much as I did. If we won, he would go in the background. He had no ego. You know, he wanted me to get the recognition.
I didn't want to be a head coach. Hey, I had it great. I was Larry's assistant. I knew he was going to coach forever. I knew I had a job forever.
But like the ABA itself, Mo's idyllic existence was destined to end too soon. After the leagues merged, Doug was forced to leave the nest.
I had to talk him into taking the San Antonio job. I remember Jane, his wife, and myself were in my kitchen talking about the opportunity when it presented itself. We talked him into taking it, and he became as good a coach as we've had in our league.
Come on, Al! Fight him in! Come on, Fat!
Both Mo and Brown became NBA coaching icons. Doug, the ultimate player's coach, and Larry, the consummate teacher.
Especially the way we...
But neither would ever forget where it all began.
Doug and I owe a lot to that league. It gave us a chance to play. It gave us a chance to coach. I don't think any experience will ever be quite the same. This is more like business. That was more like fun.
And as Larry and Doug coached their last game together, their Nuggets seemed ready to provide them with the perfect send-off.
Oh, my goodness. And it's now a 22-point lead, Denver. Look at that pass to Thompson. It is just a clinic they're conducting. You can see the Nets in big trouble, and the Nuggets lead by a score of 80-58. Dr. J now leads the team out to the court.
In the third quarter, the Nets found themselves down by 22. Still, they had hope. And the league's best player.
Steal by Dr. J. And again the press. 19 for the Doctor. Here come the Nets. Give it to Doctor. That's what they do. They have cut the lead in half, and the Net crowd really coming alive.
In 1971, Julius Erving entered the ABA as a virtual unknown. He was like a rumor that had just started to spread.
I was at home watching TV, and they said the Squires, we just signed this new player, you know, Julius Erving. I said, well, who is this guy? I never even heard of Julius Erving.
I remember calling up Earl Foreman, who was the owner of the Squires, and I said, Earl, do you understand how good this guy is? And he said, yeah, we paid pretty good money for him. We like him. I said, Earl, you have no idea what you have here.
If anyone doubted that Dr. J could live up to his growing reputation, they were immediately convinced as soon as they saw him play.
Erving ahead of everybody.
He is such an exciting player on that fast break.
I just turned him loose. There was something new every night.
Erving is absolutely unstoppable.
And there is Julius Erving. Look at that move behind the back. Oh!
I've seen this guy dunk on 7-footers like they was children.
Dr. J. Gilmore's there. The Doc dunks it. What a play.
He'd go up in the air, I'd go, and I'd have to breathe again before he came down.
Man, I can't believe that dunk. I've never seen one like it.
I developed
my own style of play, which is sort of a playground style. It's real loose and real freelance.
I think I just saw a new form of energy created out there a while ago. It's called Erving energy.
Without question, without any doubt, the absolute greatest forward that has ever put on a pair of basketball shoes.
He would just fly through the air. It was such a thing of beauty because not only was it his ability to leap so high, but it was that throw that went with it. Oh, man. Came to a point here, had to be about 9 or 10 inches. But he'd fly down the court and it would blow just like his head was out the window.
When that afro started going back like that, it was bad news for the opposition.
The burden of carrying the league fell squarely on Erving's shoulders, but it was one he was happy to bear.
If you see him somewhere, he would talk to you about, we need to stick together as a league, things are tough, let's act professional, let's keep this thing going. He loved the ABA.
He would never ask out, never take a day off, because he knew we were going to play someplace that the majority of the people that were coming to that arena were coming to see Doc play.
He was the face of the ABA, and almost every place you played, he became a cult figure. We've got to see the doctor's in town.
Julius had worked so hard to ensure the ABA's survival, but in the end, he would also seal its fate.
He was responsible for the merger. I mean, let's face it. That was no question about that. The NBA wanted Julius. He was the reason there was a consolidation.
When he came over to the NBA, he was used in every town he went to. They had a press conference before the game. And so he was not only a symbol for the ABA, he became the symbol for the NBA.
He really kind of transformed from the wild afro to really the kind of the Wall Street, Madison Avenue guy, very sophisticated and, conservative-looking guy.
Erving adapted to fit into a new league, but ultimately, it was the NBA that changed because of him.
I felt very proud for Doc being the starter of the guys that followed. Magic, Bird, Jordan. He's been a good torch carrier.
But for those who were privileged to share his days in the ABA, they still treasure the images of the Dr. J, who took their league by storm.
We were the lucky ones. They never saw what we saw. We were lucky. We got to see the high wire act. They're not seeing it in the NBA.
That was the time when I had the most fun playing basketball. Between age 21 and age 26, I genuinely was empowered with this ability to do anything that I wanted to do on a basketball court and anything I'd ever dreamed of doing.
Oh, man, what a comeback. 5 points separate these two teams. Here's the doctor.
I love that guy. I love that guy.
And that's finally tied up after battling back and a dejected Denver bench.
The Nets would mount one of history's greatest comebacks, and fittingly, it was led by Julius Erving.
They're going to win it. The Nets have won the NBA championship in the guttiest comeback I've ever seen in professional sports.
It's as sweet as it ever was. I tell you, now hopefully we've started something and we can keep on and win some more championships in the years to come. But we're going to enjoy this one right now. Have a little champagne.
The Nets' dramatic victory was the perfect finale. They were a team who would be remembered for Dr. J, the symbol of the league, and his former teammate, who would become an ABA legend, Wendell Ladner. Like the ABA, Wendell seemed to spring from oblivion. In fact, coming from Knee Case crossing Mississippi, it seemed unlikely he was destined to go anywhere.
He was just a hometown boy that never had much. And now, the talk of the town was, Wendell made the pros. Everybody was just joyful, happy.
Wendell's story is a very unique one. Kind of brings a glow to my eyes when I think about him, because Wendell was such a character.
Wendell came from simple beginnings, but he was a magnet for drama. In only his second game, he drew the attention of the league's most dangerous player, John Brisker.
You had to know that when you were playing against Pittsburgh and you were playing against Brisker, you were in harm's way.
One of the ABA coaches put out a bounty, $500 bounty on John Brisker, because he was tired of Brisker beating up his team.
We went to Pittsburgh, and waiting for us at the hotel was babbling John Brisker. And Brisker's question was, who is Wendell Ladner and how tough is he? And late in the third quarter, Brisker shot an elbow at him, and Wendell shot one right back. And they squared off and they went at it. A week later, they were at it before the jump ball. Eventually, Brisker recognized this is one hombre you don't want to keep fooling around with because you can get hurt.
His coach, Babe McCarthy, once said, "I don't think Wendell knows the meaning of the word fear." And then he paused when he said, of course, he doesn't know the meaning of a lot of words.
Wendell made something exciting happen when he was on the basketball court. It might not always be good for your team, but something was going to happen.
The Colonels have 8 seconds. Now Ladner. Ladner's jumper is there! Wendell Ladner had a bit of hero fever, and he heaved one up over everything.
If a loose ball is going towards your bench, 4 or 5 guys getting ready to get knocked over the back of their chairs because he's diving after the ball. He was relentless.
If it takes to win a game for me to go after a loose ball and save a couple, I will.
Wendell had become a fan favorite, especially with the ladies.
Wendell liked to date and play basketball, and those were the only things on his mind.
He was sort of the Rhett Butler of the league.
Talk about Wendell, you think about Clark Gable.
You know who we really thought he was? Elvis Presley.
It was like the arrival of Burt Reynolds, because that was always his hero.
At halftime, he would sprint to the locker room, and by the time the rest of the team was in there, he would have his hair dryer and his comb out and his spray for his hair.
He was always combing his hair. Now about how I look. What do you think,
It would be nothing for Wendell to tell you, here, take this phone number up to that girl up there in section 23, the 5th row, the 4th seat in. Do you see her, Pinky?
Wendell's the only guy I ever knew when we would get off an airplane, he would have sometimes the telephone number of every stewardess on the plane.
They shot this poster of Wendell only in his basketball trunks, and that was a big seller for the Colonels franchise.
Wendell played for 5 teams and was a 2-time All-Star, but it was the New York Nets who paid him the ultimate compliment.
We worked very hard to make a trade to get him on our team. and Kevin Lockery always said, I'd rather have him on our side where we can watch him.
I felt we had to make a trade for Wendell, because if not, he might kill Dr. J.
Dr. J, and he's really a tough ball player, superstar. I guess you consider him the best in the league because he can do everything.
Wendell was your protector. Doc was the happiest guy in the world when we got him in the trade because he wouldn't let anybody touch the Doc.
The tip gets it back, puts it up, no good. Rebounded by Wendell Ladner. Up court pass, Dr. J. New York has taken the lead.
I think we can take the championship this year, and it's really great because, we never had this feeling before.
Wendell was right, as the Nets took their first title in 1974.
Wendell was something else. I became very close to him and to his family.
Wendell and the doctor formed the ABA's most colorful duo, and it seemed like they were fated to play together for years to come. But like the ABA, their partnership ended all too soon.
More than 100 people were reported dead in a plane crash near New York's Kennedy Airport this afternoon. The plane was nearing the end of a non-stop flight from New Orleans.
We got word the same day, that we had lost him, and we started reaching out to the family.
The plane was carrying 115 passengers. As of now, at least 16 survivors are in nearby hospitals.
I didn't hear about it till I got home, and his girlfriend told me what happened. There was a plane crash, and Wendell was on it.
Eastern Flight 66, the worst single airplane disaster in American history.
It was a sad day. It was very sad because people just felt a great loss.
Everybody went down to knee case crossing Mississippi, and guys with the pallbearers, and it was very touching because he was, you know, he was a hero to everybody down there. I mean, he was, you know, he was a god to them, and he left them all too early.
Etched on Wendell's gravestone are the logos of the ABA teams he played for, and the words, "Always remember Wendell," the 110% he gave to his life, the game of basketball he loved so much, and the happiness he gave all of us.
You know, the best thing about Wendell Ladner was his heart. Huge, huge.
People just liked Wendell. He wasn't afraid to stop and talk to anybody. He'd be seen in the park playing ball with the little kids out around the area where he lived. There wasn't anything you couldn't like about Wendell.
Being his brother, I think about how outgoing he was, loved life to the fullest, and just enjoyed being around people and having friends and family.
There probably has never been another player exactly like him. And I've been around a lot of players. I've been literally around, you know, thousands of players. I hadn't seen anybody like him. They still talk about him. And, you know, the rest is a part of folklore.
In the end, the ABA only lasted 9 seasons, but it still lives on in the hearts of those who were a part of it.
30 years later, a lot of ABA guys, man, still sit around and tell stories, you know, tell lies. It was one heck of a bond, man, and we don't never want to see that die.